That's not great coffee. All right, so today we're gonna have a different chat than usual. And if you're like, hey Ariel, your face looks different than usual, good job, you picked it out. It's because it's my real face and not my internet face. I didn't put makeup on today, which is relevant to the conversation that we're about to have. So, in true YouTube intro fashion, if you want to know why I'm not wearing makeup, just keep watching. I hate when people say just keep watching. Cut. So, March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I have that, and I would like to make you aware. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna talk about why I call my channel SpicyUterus, what the hell it means when your uterus is spicy, and I'm probably gonna say the word uterus and ovaries and pain a lot. So if any of those three words make you uncomfortable, maybe don't keep watching. I'm not Google, and I'm here to talk about my experience, not like the textbook definition of endometriosis. So for those who don't know, endometriosis affects 1 in 10 people, and it's when tissue that is similar to the lining of your uterus, so the stuff that comes out every month when you have a period and hurts real bad, that stuff. So it's when tissue similar to that grows in other parts of your body. For me, it grows near my bladder, on my right ovary on the outside, and on my abdominal wall. And the reason that this is a problem for a lot of people is because your body, after planting this tissue there, goes, that's not supposed to be there, I'm gonna go attack it. And it gets really, really painful and really inflamed because your body's messing things up on one end and then trying to kill what it messed up on the other end. It's a little confused. Plus, every month when you get your period, that tissue bleeds as well, but it has nowhere to go. So it just bleeds out into your abdomen or wherever, and it hurts real bad, real bad. I'm gonna make a little list of some of the symptoms that I experienced prior to being diagnosed. And then I'm gonna talk about my diagnosis story, which will hopefully not take 45 minutes because that's what happened the first time I filmed this video. And then I'm gonna talk about how I'm doing now. So I've always had very enthusiastic periods, for lack of a better term. They were always really heavy. They were always really painful. But as anyone with a uterus will tell you, oh boy, when you go to people and you're like, I can't do this because I'm in a lot of pain from my period, the general response from most people is, suck it up. Everyone has a painful period. You're fine. It's just women's problems, you know. Or if this was 100 years ago, they would have just straight up lobotomized you and called it good. Flash forward to 2014. I was in my 3rd year of university, and it was Thanksgiving weekend, so October 14th, because I'm in Canada. So October 14th, I went to bed really early. I went to bed at 7:30 at night. I went to bed super early. I just kind of felt off. I had just eaten a lot, so I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I was coming down with something. Who knows? Anyway, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had the worst. Actually, I shouldn't say that because it does get worse. I had really bad abdominal pain on my right side. And so immediately I was like, well, that's probably appendicitis because it was on my right side. I Googled the symptoms. I had them all. So I was like, cool. But, you know, I'm an animal lover and I was supposed to go to the petting zoo at the fair the next day. So I sucked it up and didn't say anything and curled up fetal for the entire night and just waited for it to be morning so I could try and tough it out, go to the petting zoo, and then go to the hospital. Needless to say, I did not make it to the petting zoo, and then the fair closed, so now I'll never get to go. Irrelevant. So my mom takes me to the hospital, and by this point, I'm running a fever. I hadn't eaten yet. I just was not having a good time. I was in a lot of pain, and people, when I'm in a lot of pain, I tend to get pretty introverted, which makes it harder for doctors to take my pain seriously a lot of the time because I'm not super vocal about how much it hurts. Ask me to rank my pain, I'll say it, but then I'll go sit there quietly in the corner and play on my phone and they'll be like, she looks fine. So after 10 hours of that, waiting in triage, they agreed that it was probably appendicitis. They went to give me the ultrasound to confirm that it was appendicitis, and instead found a very large, very ruptured ovarian cyst. That was the first time that it happened. For me, I'd never had a cyst before, but it was the only one they could see. So they were like, well, you did just change your birth control. Maybe this is kind of a one-off, but we're gonna send you to a specialist regardless, just to follow up. So I was like, okay. 2 weeks later, I'm back at school and I'm just exhausted. I'm really, really tired. I can't stay awake. I'm sleeping like 16 hours a day. I'm falling behind in class. I'm still in pain. The pain hasn't gotten any better. So I went to the on-campus clinic and they gave me a second ultrasound, and they said that they couldn't see any debris left from the cyst in my belly, like it had healed. So they didn't understand why I was still in that much pain, and I didn't have a fever anymore. That's a symptom of like a ruptured cyst, is having a fever. So they were like, you're better. We don't know why it still hurts. So I went to see the specialist about 2 months later in December. That was kind of when we started to suspect maybe it was endometriosis, because I was still in the same amount of pain. There was no visible reason for why I should still be in that much pain. So that was unfortunate. So he started to suspect endometriosis, and he put me on, at that time, what was like the newest drug on the market to kind of treat endometriosis. Endometriosis has no cure, I should say. Typically treatment is being on birth control and skipping your sugar pill week, suppressing your periods as much as possible, because flares, when the pain is really bad, tend to be worse when you're on your period, because all of that tissue is bleeding into your belly. Some people will get hysterectomies that do or don't work, or there's also laparoscopic surgery, which is actually the only way to get a confirmed diagnosis, which is where they go in, they have a little camera, they go in through your belly button, they find the endo, they make a second incision closer to that area, and then they will either cauterize it or do what's called excision, where they go in and they actually cut out that spot of endometriosis. And excision surgery is the most effective right now. That's the best we have, but even that still has about a 40%, don't quote me on this, I'm not a doctor, but I believe it is 40% recurrence rate. So getting an endometriosis diagnosis kind of sucks, because there's not really a whole lot they can do besides pumping you full of really aggressive hormones in the hopes to get you stable enough to live a productive life. And for some people that works really well, and for others not so much. I fall into the second group. So he put me on Vyzan, which was a newer treatment on the market. Basically just puts a pause on your periods, the hope of kind of starving out some of that endo. I started the Vyzan in December and went back to university, and by the time I had my follow-up with him in March of 2015, my life had like completely fallen apart, and that's not hyperbole. I was so tired. It physically hurt my muscles to lay in bed. I was that tired that like laying in bed felt like effort. So I was sleeping nonstop. I was missing class. Luckily, I had a very supportive faculty and a very supportive team of profs and friends who were really understanding and let me do the majority of my schoolwork from home, and then the things that I needed to be there for physically, they were really accommodating for. So, you know, they always made sure I had a chair or someone would pick me up, even though I only lived a block away from school, because I literally could not walk that far. Like, my knees would be shaking. It was unbelievable how tired I was. My house was falling apart because I just didn't have the energy to feed myself or clean the house or look after my animals. It was a really dark time because I was just kind of aggressively fighting to be learning what I needed to learn at school and refusing to kind of accept that I just wasn't myself and I did not have the ability levels that I had 6 months ago, and I just refused to quit and was kind of running myself into the ground as a result. Also, I was still in a crap ton of pain. I had been in pain since October by this point, which is also exhausting. It's very isolating when something like this first happens because, you know, they want to be there for you, but then when they realize it's not getting better, there's a really big feeling of helplessness that comes with that, I think, for a lot of people. And I lost a lot of friends. People that I had known most of my life, you know, 15, 20 years, just all of a sudden weren't there for me anymore. And being in that amount of pain and then seeing the people that don't back you for that is really painful in itself. I haven't talked about this in a long time, and it's like, it's bringing some stuff up. While I was waiting to see my specialist, I was also on very high doses of painkillers. So they were rotating me between Percocet, morphine, tramadol, and like T3s, as well as anti-inflammatories, so naproxen mostly. The problem with being on that many medications is that they all kind of have different side effects, so you're never really sure what is a symptom anymore and what is just a side effect of the medication you're on. Basically, I was just a mess, like physically, emotionally, academically. I was just having a really hard time. So I will always be really grateful to the people that stuck with me through that, because I was kind of insufferable while all this was going on. And, you know, I wasn't the easiest person to be around, and people stayed anyway. So I'll always be grateful to my true friends, for sure. So in March, I go to see a specialist, and I'm like, my life is in shambles. I am in indescribable amounts of pain all the time. The morphine's not touching it. What else you got? But like, it's not helping. I was like, the Vyzan is stopping it from getting worse, I think, but it's not getting better. Now March, like, I can't keep going like this. By this point, I had actually had to defer graduating a year, which sucked. And he booked me a laparoscopy on the date that I would have graduated. So that blew. Luckily, it was very early in the morning, this surgery. So pretty much all I remember from that day is him telling me that I was gonna feel really good when they went to put me under, because they were gonna give me whatever magic drug to make you not care. And the last thing I said to him before I went under, which is still joked about at my university, is I told him that my insides felt like velvet, which was not wrong. I was feeling very warm and fuzzy when they put me under. Which is day surgery, had my surgery, confirmed endo, great, cool. Did excision, so he took out what was there. Luckily for me, I had a very small amount. There is no correlation between the amount of pain you're in and the amount of endo that you actually have. So you can have like a crap ton of pain and very minimal endo, which is what I have, or you can have no pain and a ton of endo that like affects your reproduction and your digestive system and blah, blah, blah. Biologically, I'm okay. The problem is that my endo is on a nerve root, so they can only do so much before like surgery actually starts to cause more pain, so that's annoying. I stayed on the Vyzan, and post-surgery I actually was almost symptom-free for about a year, and I graduated. Wow, that's like that's a video in and of itself, my graduation story, but that's not what we're here for today. End of 2016, beginning of 2017, I started having symptoms again, and I was like, great. So hit up my specialist again, and I explained that I had been on the Vyzan for 2 years. It worked for those 2 years, but it wasn't working anymore. It was also making me gain weight like crazy. I gained like 55 pounds, I think it was, total. It was obscene. So we swapped from the Vyzan to, I got a Mirena, an IUD. It's a slightly higher dose of hormones, but not quite as invasive as like a systemic pill that you take. And that did nothing. Got my Mirena in October 2017. In January, I met with him and I was like, so same thing. I'm only working part-time right now because I'm flaring nonstop. I'm in a lot of pain, very tired, not good. He was hesitant to do another surgery just because of where my endo is located. So he put me on Lupron. Lupron is the most aggressive drug currently on market for endo. It was actually originally developed for patients with testicular cancer and other reproductive cancers. It's got some pretty gnarly side effects, and basically what it does is it puts you in chemical menopause, which is where I am now. Lupron is a very controversial drug. People tend to either love it or hate it. There's really not an in-between, and I've actually gotten a lot of flack from the endometriosis community for being on Lupron in the first place, for agreeing to take it, and for talking about the fact that it's been beneficial to me, which is stupid. Hi guys, it's our job to support each other in whatever treatment we choose. It is not our job to judge each other's treatments. That's what doctors are for. So Lupron, I will also include a list of Lupron side effects because it absolutely does affect me. So the biggest thing with Lupron is that it does kind of kill my appetite quite a bit. So I will forget to eat for like an entire day, and I have fainted more than once. as a result of this, I've gotten like low blood sugar, so like I'll get like super irritable and I'll like be sweating and having palpitations and just not good. I just don't have any appetite, and it's easy when you're busy to forget to eat when you do have an appetite. So when I look in the fridge and every single thing in there looks like just bleh, it's really easy to just close the fridge and say whatever, I'll eat later when I'm hungry. Second biggest is it does affect your cognitive processing and causes short-term memory loss. So part of the reason that I use so many jump cuts in my videos is because I will literally forget what I'm saying mid-sentence and just trail off and like zone out. Also makes it really difficult because I work in a pet store, so I have a lot of face-to-face conversations with a lot of people, and occasionally my brain will just shut off and I'll have to be like, oh, sorry, I'm very under-caffeinated right now, and we'll just kind of laugh about it for a second, but that's usually me just buying time. It just happened. That's usually just me buying time while my brain gets its crap back together. So I definitely sound a little bit loopy sometimes. People have actually commented on it on my videos, and I have removed the comments because I wanted to address this on my own when I feel it is time, but I do like occasionally stutter or get kind of, my speech will get a little bit like disjointed. And it's literally just because my brain is like, oh, I'm so foggy, help me. Anyway, so those are like the two biggest side effects I've had. I am on a secondary medication to help offset those side effects, and it does help because without that secondary medication, I get like night sweats and cold flashes and hot flashes, just a lot of flashes. And the memory issues are like real bad. Like I will leave the stove on or forget to lock my house kind of thing. So because I'm on the ad back, that does help. Another big thing with Lupron is it can affect your bone density. So I do have to go for bone scans and MRIs pretty regularly to make sure that we're all good there. And I do take a prescription grade calcium supplement. I think the bone density is what gets people the most concerned about Lupron, but I don't know. When he first put me on Lupron, I'm not gonna lie, I was absolutely terrified. I was so anxious. It's truly like given me my life back. So I'm in almost no pain. I'll have maybe 1 or 2 bad days a month, if that. It's been very, very good. For me, it's totally worth dealing with potentially aggressive side effects because I have more energy, I'm not in pain. Being on Lupron is the first time that I've been pain-free in 5 years. So to not have to deal with that is just like, I don't know, you get so used to being in that level of pain, and then to have it just like gone, like overnight, it's a pretty indescribable feeling. And Lupron is not a long-term solution. It's not really something that you can stay on for the rest of your life. So when I do eventually have to come off of it and that pain comes back, it's gonna suck. Because logically, I know that that day will come, but it doesn't change the fact that right now I'm running around doing every single thing I've ever wanted to be doing because I can. I guess as far as Lupron goes, my biggest, just happened again. Maybe I should leave these in so you can see just how often I like lose my train of thought completely, but maybe not because I'm at 24 minutes already. Lupron is definitely not a cure-all. I do still have symptoms. My energy levels just aren't what they were before I got diagnosed at all. Like I just get tired a lot more quickly. So on my days off, which is today, I film on my days off usually. I usually spend it on this futon, just taking a straight up recovery day. I won't have showered yet. Beautiful. I haven't showered yet, so my hair's a little gross. I'm not wearing any makeup because I don't know if you can see a little bit, but my skin is actually really affected by endo. So part of endometriosis is a major like hormonal imbalance. So one of my symptoms is actually rosacea on my skin, and I have prescription grade cream for it that does help, but it also causes its own side effects like dry skin and itchiness and all these other gross things. So like it's annoying because I used to have really nice skin and now I have like really not nice skin, but it's worth it. Still worth it to not be in pain. My days off typically consist of laying around the house and not doing a whole lot. Like I'll putter around, I'll clean, I'll spend time with my animals, but I tend to not do a whole lot on my days off because they're usually recovery days. I just don't have the energy levels that I used to. And especially where both of my jobs are very physical, it's kind of hard to work that much during the week and then not take recovery time. It doesn't really happen for me. But on the plus side, I am now able to work full time, and this time last year, while I was waiting to go on Lupron, I wasn't. Because it's exhausting being in that amount of pain all the time, because your body's fighting itself, and so much of your resources are going towards managing that pain that you don't have a whole lot left to do anything else. That might sound really great to a lot of people, but I will say it is really annoying having to like pace yourself. I've never been that kind of person. I've always just been a do whatever you want all the time sort of person. I am notorious in my personal life for taking on way more things than I can commit to, and overbooking myself. And that's still something that I struggle with. Like, I have run myself into the ground so many times since I got diagnosed because I just can't stop. So taking those couple recovery days, I've since become very like possessive of them because I need them. And if I don't take them, it does affect me for the next work week. So that's essentially where my channel name and my social media name came from. Is I started out as a chronic illness account about endometriosis, and then after I went on Lupron, my symptoms kind of dissipated a little bit. Endometriosis already kind of owns my life. I didn't want it to own my online presence as well, because I am more than this, and it took me a really long time for it to not own every section of my life. When I made the switch to my animal-oriented channel, I purposely kept the name because it definitely still is very much a part of who I am, but it's not the full story. And I keep it because I want to share with people that it is possible to still do the things that you want to do if you're sick, and it is still possible to, you know, be responsible for your animals and to put them first while also managing your health. I had a hard time finding resources, especially on YouTube, of people with endometriosis that were still living their lives. When you get diagnosed, it's definitely a grieving process, and it's not linear. I have some days where I don't even care that I have endo, and I'm like, whatever, I do what I want. And then I have other days where I'm absolutely frustrated and just sad that I will constantly be living my life in spurts. And I just lost it again. Yeah, enough about me. Do have several friends, both on YouTube and in real life, who are either newly diagnosed or in the process of getting diagnosed. My biggest advice to you would be to learn to self-advocate. You're gonna learn anyway, because otherwise you're just gonna get bullied by the medical community. Not the whole medical community. There are definitely good doctors out there, but there are a lot of not great doctors out there who won't take you seriously. And if you don't take yourself seriously, you're just adding one more person to that battle. I always subconsciously kind of downplayed my symptoms when I was talking about them to doctors, because I don't know if it was like I didn't feel like I deserved all their fussing, or I didn't want it to like sound as bad as it was. I don't know, but there was always a part of me that held back some details when I was talking to them. And I think that if I had to do all this again, I would absolutely say not to do that, to be completely honest about how much your disease is affecting your life. Because if you don't believe that you're deserving and entitled to healthcare, the professionals that have to give it to you aren't gonna believe it either. And this one's gonna sound really harsh, but I would also say to let go of any expectations you have for yourself and your life, because when you get diagnosed with an incurable disease like endometriosis, your life's gonna change. Like it or not, it's gonna change. And so are your goals, and so are the things that you want, and that's just how it is. I think if I had recognized that sooner, I would have spent a lot less time grieving the life that I wish I'd had, or the things that I wanted to do, because I would have been focused on making the changes necessary so that I could focus on the stuff that I can do and the stuff that I want, the way I want to live my life. Oh my gosh, please take your pain seriously. You don't have to live in pain, girls anyone with a uterus looking at you. You really, really don't. If you have a horrible period every month and it makes you miserable, or if you're having cramps throughout the month that don't feel right, don't listen to people when they say that's normal, because it's not. Endometriosis affects 1 in 10 people, and there's no cure because nobody takes it seriously. It's not an uncommon disease by any stretch, but on average, it takes 7 years to get a diagnosis. 7 years. I am incredibly fortunate that my specialist took me seriously from day one and figured it out right away. God bless Dave Rittenberg. Anyway, so don't be afraid to voice your discomfort. Don't be afraid to see a doctor. Don't be afraid to fight for yourself, because you don't have to live like this. It's not a cure, but there are options available. And even if you're like me and at the end of the day still sometimes in pain, at least you know you tried. At least you know that you're doing everything you can and fighting for the life that you deserve. Don't feel like you need to live in pain, because you don't. Sorry there were no animals in this video. I was like trying to think of ways to like artfully insert them. I was gonna have Cusco out, but if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram or literally anywhere else, probably even here, you know that Cusco's having a bit of a rough time behaviorally right now, so I need to be very, very careful with my interactions with him. But on the plus side, my next video probably is gonna be all about Cusco and that whole journey we've been on. I'm gonna leave this here. I feel like I've said everything I need to say. Chronic illness life is a whole rabbit hole. It's not something you can cover in one video. I definitely have meant to address it earlier on this channel. I truly have. I filmed this a couple of times. I've filmed hospital visits and checkups and procedures and whatnot. I just couldn't really find the right way to like put them all together. So yeah, but going forward, I will be more transparent about this stuff, because it does affect my life, it does affect my channel and my animals and the way that I do things. So I definitely will be sharing more of this side of my little world over here. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions about endometriosis or feel like it might be something that you or someone you care about has, please feel free to comment or DM me over on Twitter. You're not alone in this hot mess of a garbage fire. It's a really shitty disease to have, but you're not alone. There's a lot of us out there, and there's a lot of support available to you. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out, and you know, we'll all get through this together. All right, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.